Hello and welcome to another post-game edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I am John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Center Daily Times. She's Audrey Snyder doing the same at The Athletic. And well, Audrey, the predictions were kind of close in that they were completely wrong for this one. Penn State blows out SMU, handles that game from start to finish, beats them 38-10 to advance to the quarterfinals. We play Boise State on December 31st in Arizona. Initial takeaways from Penn State, kind of throttling a very good SMU team.
Season not over, John. Not even close to over.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I booked the Fiesta Bowl flight in the third quarter, and the interesting thing to me was that, well, a few things. One of them was that I never felt that this game was getting away from Penn State. Like there was never, like honestly, the closest it got to that was the opening drive. The offense goes 3 and out. And then you're like, oh boy, maybe this is like not going to be Penn State's day. And then it just doesn't. I mean, it just absolutely implodes for SMU. And, the flip side of this is you got to credit Penn State for capitalizing on the opportunities, right? Like you can say, oh, wow, they threw the ball right at Tony Rojas. Well, Tony Rojas also still did catch the ball and then have a pretty crazy return. When John, like, because in all of our build up to this, like, when did we ever say, oh, yeah, Penn State's going to have 2 pick sixes in this game?
Yeah, no, it
Never,
felt
John.
like,
The answer is never. We never said that.
right. It felt like you're projecting variance, and they did get some of that in their favor, which is obviously helpful. They were also just the significantly better team today, which I think is the main thing I want to talk about, right? Like, people, you're right.
Mhm.
People will point to, like, yeah, Tony Rojas kind of got lucky because he just happened to be there for that pick six. Same with Dom DeLuca on frankly both of his. Although
the ball magnet DeLuca, John.
Yeah, the second pick, I stand by. Had he not tipped that ball, it was getting thrown straight into Zakee Wheatley's chest, who was going to have a chance to run it back for a third pick six. So it may have actually been beneficial for him to let that one go. But no, it was a tough day for Kevin Jennings. I still think he's very good, but just you could tell he was pretty rattled. I don't know if it was a crowd or what have you, but he was definitely not playing great. The second pick, or excuse me, the first pick is like an inexcusable throw. The running back looks like he's running an angle route, and Jennings throws it early because he felt pressure that was not quite there yet. Like I know Rhett Lashley said post game that that there was interior pressure, and there was, but like it was, I don't know, it's probably like it was 2 or 3 yards away at that point, right? Like it's not like he even got hit because of it. It was a bad throw. It was he throws off his back foot. He kind of spread his legs out and was facing the target, like his chest was toward the target, and that's not how you want to throw. And he threw it right to Dom DeLuca. Aramel was running back, and DeLuca ran it back for an easy pick six. It just it felt like one of those situations where everything went in Penn State's favor. You mentioned that first drive, right? Jennings has a first down on 4th and 1, and it's tough, right? Like he should have just picked up the first down and taken it and moved on. But also his weapon, I think it was Hibner, right? Their tight end, Matthew Hibner, was wide open, and he just bobbles the ball, and Zakee Wheatley makes a really good play to lay a hit on him when he's trying to catch the bobble, and it falls incomplete. But yeah,
that was the only moment, John. That was the only like that was, and you're like, okay, yeah, if SMU, if they go up 7-0, I want to say too, for all of the concerns, the questions, the wondering, the nervousness, the ticket prices on StubHub and Ticketmaster in the resale market, and the hotel prices that were out the wazoo around here, the Penn State fans showed up. And I was having a conversation at a local establishment Friday night. And someone said to me, they said, Audrey, like, do you think Penn State's only going to get 70, 80,000 people here? And I was doing a radio hit early in the week, and somebody threw that number out. And I said, are you guys nuts? Like, there is no way that that's the number. Like, this is a Penn State crowd that typically gets well over 100,000. And yes, like, a lot was stacked against it today with the timing, the pricing. It's almost Christmas. Like, students are on break. All that stuff that we outlined last week. Oh, yeah, there's snow on the ground. It's cold. This was a really good crowd considering everything that was stacked against it. The announced attendance was 106.13. And I just think that's important to this because there were so many questions about what's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? They were loud. They were loud early on. And to me, that's, we're seeing with all these on-campus games, the special atmospheres that you want, right? Like that's the whole point of all these college football games. You wanted to put them on campus, so you got the craziness, the rowdiness. Well, you got snow and you got noise. And I just thought it was an awesome atmosphere for a playoff game. And what a cool moment at the end of the game to see the players celebrate and they're passing out the Fiesta Bowl hats, and then you get the crowd, many of them who stayed to celebrate, and they start blasting Zombie Nation, which is not what they typically do post-game, just because I think there was a sense of how big this moment was and the fact that it's James Franklin's 100th win. Like, I just think the whole perspective of today, don't get wrapped up in, okay, what's next, Boise State? Like, I get it. It's exciting. Penn State's favored in the next game if you're peeking ahead like I've already done. But like today was a special day for this program and for a fan base that's waited and that has never heard or never seen their team win a playoff game.
Not just favored against Boise State, by the way, 10.5 point favorites.
Yeah.
Like, heavier favorites than they were against SMU at home. Like, listen, you talk about the path to the semis, and it is laying right in front of Penn State. That is a game that they should win by double digits, but we'll get to that.
Lots of time to get to that, John.
Yes. But no, I think you're right. I think it's tough in a playoff. Like, you kind of immediately want to look ahead, but you're right. Like, fans should enjoy this moment. This moment was more than, this was more, and I wrote about this over at centerdaily.com. This was more than, just a win, just a home win. It was not just James's 100th win. It's not just their first playoff win. To me, this is the win that makes me think that Penn State can win the national title, right? Yeah. Not saying they're the favorites, not saying that they're the second.
They're for real.
Whatever. Like, they're a legitimate, like, top 3 to 5 team in the country. SMU is good. Like, we can argue up and down about conferences and whatever, and I'm not going to like sit here.
We're not. Don't worry, John. We're not.
I'm not going to sit here and denigrate like who made the playoff because of the results in the playoff. That's not how this works. Like, it's very stupid to have that discussion after the fact with the benefit of hindsight. And people are doing that are being disingenuous and have an agenda in the first place, and it's very dumb and it annoys me. But SMU, we know, is a very good team. They're top 5 offense in SP+. I think they're 21st in the nation on defense in SP+. Their run defense was really good all year. Like, they were a legitimately really good team, and they never had a chance against Penn State. Penn State suffocated them defensively, and their offense crushed them in the trenches and like ran all over them all game. And I know some people, and I've seen some of this reaction. It's crazy to me. The like, well, Penn State's not going to go anywhere if they throw the ball like that. Why? Like, Ohio State really can't. Like, yeah, Ohio State is Jeremiah Smith, but like outside, like, Will Howard's not a good quarterback. Drew Allar's a better quarterback than Will Howard is, and like that hasn't hindered anyone's thoughts that they can win the national title, right? Like, just enjoy the fact that Penn State won this game. Enjoy the fact that their defense is arguably the best in the country. Enjoy the fact that their running game might be the best in the country, and enjoy the fact that the passing game is good too. Like, it's like Tyler Warren had, I would say, his worst offensive game all season. Yep. Allar might have had his worst game in like 2 or 3 months. He looked a little jittery and nervous early.
And couple drives, he even said the first few drives, and first quarter, he's like, I missed throws that I need to make. But yeah, 13 of 22 for Allar, 127 yards. Like, super pedestrian numbers if you're just looking at it. But Nick Singleton, 14 carries, 90, and a touchdown. Kaytron, 11 for 70, 2 touchdowns. I don't know, John. It's kind of like someone pregame said that we'd be talking about Nick Singleton Saturday night. Was that me? That was me.
Whatever. But no, listen, no matter how good of a team you are, there are going to be times when your star quarterback does not meet the moment, and you need other guys to pick him up. And your Heisman finalist tight end does not meet the moment, and you need other guys to pick him up. And today, Penn State's defense and running game picked up Drew Allar and Tyler Warren. And I will bet you that this is both of their worst game in the playoff, right? Like, I will bet both will be better against Boise State. I bet both will be better in the semis. Like, and if they make it to the national title game, I bet both would be better than too. Like, they just had an off day. These other games are going to be in warm temperatures for them too. Like, that's the other thing we talk about, the cold. The ball was kind of dead on special teams.
Yeah, I guess that was
I think Rhett Lashley said that they just didn't get good contact. It's like, well, did nobody get good contact all day then? Like, the ball was just kind of getting killed by the wind, and it's cold and it's not going to move as well. And
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 the
so
field, John, like, when we got there this morning and they're, like,
yeah,
snow blowing the field and you're looking at the playoff logos, I'm like, "That looks like you're just gonna be falling on concrete." Like, it
yes.
very, very much a winter day around here.
Yeah, but, like, the rest of these games are gonna be played in warm weather or in domes, right? Like, this offense is gonna be on a fast track, so to speak. They're gonna have a chance to score just like the offenses they face. Like, I think I don't know. I think this will end up being Penn State's worst offensive performance. Their offense scores 3 touchdowns in this game. Like, it's still a very good game. The 2 defensive touchdowns help, but like this was a good SMU defense. I've said before it was not great, but they SMU struggled against the pass, and Penn State could not throw the ball. But SMU was elite against the run, and Penn State ran all over them. So, like, if you're going to
Mhm.
hem and haw about the passing game not being good enough, well, then I think you have to say, well, even without the passing game being good enough, the running game is good enough to carry the offense. And I don't believe that either of those things has to be true, but I just don't think like you can say one thing and mean the other. And therefore, like if you're not throwing the ball well enough, you can't win. Well, you just proved that against a good defense that is notorious for stopping the run.
And John, this goes back to, I think, the whole thing with this team this year. Like, you look at it and you say, well, okay, the best win is what? The best thing that this offense does is what? They can do so many different things really well, and I think that's kind of the value of this offense. And I do think this will get overlooked because, again, not the craziest stat line, but Trey Wallace quietly had stepped up today. When you look at it, because we look at targets all the time, and it had been Tyler Warren this year, the target hog, and Trey Wallace had stepped up in that regard today. So maybe you have someone who can kind of help out a little bit, when we see how this thing moves. But yeah, these running backs really have gotten a lot of traction the last month of the season, and for me, that's been instrumental when you look at just what this offense is able to do, what we saw them do against Oregon. Like, Nick Singleton said at post game, he said, we think we're the best backfield in the country. And I think when you look at what Nick has done and what Kaytron has done and what they've done together, um, that's a winning formula. That's a winning recipe. And this is why, and I think this is probably the appropriate time to unpack this decision because I think this is impactful. And I have a story up on The Athletic about this. And, I kind of raised the question of, well, why not Penn State this year? And Penn State, second quarter, 4th and 1. At the Penn State 19, John and I, again, we're on opposite ends of the press box, so we have not discussed this yet. Penn State's offense stays on the field, 4th and 1 at the 19. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe they're just going to call it timeout. Like, what's going on here? Penn State, at that point, has all the momentum, which is something I believe in. John does not. And Penn State keeps the offense out there, goes for it, fumbled snap, doesn't get it. All of a sudden, the door swings wide open for SMU to get in this game. And you know what, John?
So they had the momentum, right? So therefore they scored.
No, because
Oh,
Dom
weird.
DeLuca got another pick. And the fact
Oh.
that Penn State gave up the drive at the 19, but then regained the ball at the 25 because of the Dom DeLuca pick. And that, to me, though, unpacking this decision, because in the moment I'm thinking, oh, this is crazy. Like, if this doesn't work, like, what's going to happen here? You're letting the door wide open, blah, blah, blah. Sure enough, the defense bails the offense out. So pour one out for complimentary football, right? Right here, we'll pour one out for complimentary football.
Well, and I think that
Mhm.
phrasing is important too. That because I've seen it phrased the other way, or another way. But the defense bailed the offense out. The defense did not bail James Franklin out. The defense bailed the offense out. James Franklin made the right decision.
Well, so unpacking this decision, very risky decision, but we know how John is in these situations, and John never wants to see anyone punt or kick a field goal. And the thing is, James Franklin was asked about it after the game, which I'm glad he was, because it
Mhm.
was fascinating. And I think his explanation really is telling when you think about the bigger context of this postseason run. And he said, listen, we wanted to be aggressive. We came into this all week saying, we're going to be aggressive. I said, Andy, I want you to be aggressive. Tom Allen, Justin Lustig, we're here to be aggressive. And they were. And obviously, it doesn't work in that scenario because the execution isn't there. However, when we talk to Andy Kotelnicki, he says, you know what? Championship teams, they kind of find a way to make things work. They find a way to figure it out. I'm paraphrasing there, but he did say championship teams, which I think is notable. And James Franklin said, if I had the opportunity to make that decision again, I'd do the same thing. And John, that to me says you are not coming into this postseason to kind of play with your food, mess around a little bit. Like, you're here to take risks, to be aggressive. And we heard last week, right? It's 3 to 4 plays every game that you need to kind of swing things for an offense. And I just think, and we talked about this, I believe, on the pregame episode, like something unlocked for this group in that Minnesota game with the 3 4th down conversions. And like, for me, you have this confidence and this swagger, and now like you're willing to be aggressive. It didn't work, but I think the thinking and the thought process with that matters when you kind of think about where this program is.
Well, and I want to push back on the idea that it's taking a risk, right? There's also risk in punting the ball there and just willingly giving the ball to SMU, right? Like, you're inheriting risk no matter what. Like,
risk reward, here we are.
Yeah, but I guess I'm just saying, like, I know I've gone on this specific rant before, so I won't do it again. But like, there's an assumption that when you go for it, you're not going to get it. Like, everyone only just assumes you're not going to get it. Therefore, it's like, well, you're going to give them the ball back right away. Like, that's not how that works. You're trying to get it, right? Like, you're trying to convert, and they didn't because they fumbled the snap, as James said, which I did not see live.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they had the push. They would have had it. And so, like, Drew has to get the snap, or Nick Dawkins has to get him the ball. We don't know what happened there, but yeah, like listen, it's 4th and 1, and this idea that, like, I know some people have said you trust your defense, so you punt the ball. Why don't you trust your defense and be okay with the, whatever it is, 40% chance that you don't get it? Why isn't it trusting your defense to give them a short field to work with? Right? Don't you like trust them in that situation to get a stop in there and hold them to 3?
I mean, that's
even better.
You're at that point, you're giving up points in a 14-0 game. Essentially,
no, you're not.
Obviously,
no,
you didn't. But obviously,
right,
like, that's the probability of you getting bailed out of that situation with a pick. Like, I don't know what the statistic is, but it's low.
No, but you can also get a stop. Like, the defense can get a stop there. If Kevin Jennings is playing that bad, they can get a stop and they can hold him to a field goal attempt. And we saw that also.
Then you're at a 14-3 game.
Right. You're up 2 possessions still. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like fundamentally changing anything. If like they hold him to a field goal there. I guess, again, the general idea is, I don't understand why it's trusting your defense to punt, but not trusting your defense to go for it. You're going to have to trust your defense either way if you don't convert it.
Or you're just saying, we trust our offense and we're going to go for it.
Right. Like, but that's the thing. Like, all of this is built around the idea that the coaching staff trusts the players to execute. James trusts the coordinators to call the right play. Like, there's an inherent trust with this team, an inherent confidence with this team that makes it different than other Penn State teams in the past. And I think that's the most notable difference with James, right? Like, and it's most notable difference with the players and the coaches. They trust each other, they believe in each other, and they believe in what they're doing. And that is like, that's what you need to be able to be aggressive in those situations. Because one, if you don't have that belief, you're probably not going to win enough games to win a national title anyways. But if you have that belief, then the offense is trusting the defense is trusting the offense. One will pick the other up, or will put the effort in to pick the other up. They're not going to be deflated. Like the defense isn't going out on the field. Like, I've seen this idea too, that like, well, your defense is going to go out and they're going to be upset because you put them in a bad position. Those guys are competitors. They
love that. A lot of them.
Yes, they want to go shove it down their throat. Like, they want, like, okay, we'll just get the ball back anyways. Like, they want that moment, and so like, they want the coaching staff to have faith in the offense, just like I'm sure the offense wants the coaching staff to have faith in the defense when they need to, when they run a cover 0 or something like that, and bring heavy pressure or what have you. I just like, I don't like this idea that it's only risky if you are trying to score rather than giving the other team the ball back. You know what I mean? Like, I've talked about this a lot, like in other situations, but it's always better to me to try to keep the ball and try to keep scoring rather than willingly giving the ball up and giving the other team, which, as we found out, the offense wasn't performing, has an explosive offense. It may not matter if they have 20 yards or 70 yards, right? Like, we've seen that offense is capable of scoring either very quickly. And as Indiana learned on Friday night, you should probably be aggressive if you want to win games.
John, I thought we were going to make it through without you burying Curt Cignetti for that.
Well, he like, listen, if you're going to talk that much smack, I've been watching my language. If you're going to talk that much smack and you're going to go out and you're going to punt at midfield multiple times and 4th and medium or 4th and short, and you're going to punt down 17 with 11 minutes left, don't even show up next time. Like, don't show up on game day and say that stuff. Don't show up and like talk this big game and then cower when someone's better than you and beating you. Like, go try to win the game. And they just tried to lose by a little less, as I always say. And like, And it was, listen, if you're gonna, again, it just drives me nuts. And like, I like Kurt Signetti because he's confident, because he's brash, and like he usually goes for
Very
it.
brash.
This was the spotlight was too bright, and he was not ready for it. Let's take a brief break from the podcast to discuss our good friends over at Roback. And yes, I'm wearing a Roback hoodie. I'm wearing a Roback hat. I'm wearing khaki Roback joggers. So that makes it look like I'm wearing dress pants, which, as you know, don't wear jeans, don't wear dress pants, always joggers.
John never wears pants, is what he's telling you guys.
That's not true. I always wear Roback joggers. I always wear Roback performance polos when I golf. I wear Roback hoodies. I have the Roback hat on it, as you can tell.
Roback shorts.
Yes, Roback shorts as well, especially when it's warm out. Like it will be at the Fiesta Bowl, presumably. But if you would like some Roback gear, maybe to go to the Fiesta Bowl and wear the Roback shorts or Roback performance polo, you can get it too, and you can get 20% off your first order over at roback.com with code TND20. That's TND20 as in the Nittany Dispatch 20. Like I said, everything you need: hoodies, joggers, polos, hats, socks, duffel bags for your trip out to Fiesta Bowl. They've got everything. Roback is excellent. You can get 20% off your first order of Roback over at roback.com with code TND20. Let's take a brief break from the podcast to discuss our friends over at Future Fans.
John, the holidays are quickly approaching. As James Franklin said, every single day is precious, and it's getting here really fast. For my family, that means we're going to gather and we're going to watch probably every football game that's going to be imaginable here in the next few days, which means you're going to get adults, you're going to get kids, everybody gathered around the TV, yelling, trying to figure out what's going on with all of our various rooting interests. If you are gearing up for Penn State's playoff run, and you'd like to teach the young football fans in your life more about the sport that you love and that you're passionate about, our friends at Future Fans are here to help. Future Fans is a new brand that helps little kids become big sports fans through storybook-led activity boxes that help them understand football. It's only $49.99 at futurefans.com. You can get a 15% off discount with the code DISPATCH. That's 15% off with code DISPATCH at futurefans.com. Don't miss out on Penn State's playoff run, and make sure your little one is geared up for the ride as well. Check out our friends over at futurefans.com.
Now, back to the show.
Walk you back a bit here. Spotlight was not too bright for Penn State today, but you said something that I want to dig a little bit deeper into, because I've noticed this, and apparently you've noticed it too, because you hinted at it a little bit. There is a different confidence, a different demeanor, a different swag to this team. And I know I mentioned it earlier in the year, and I compared them to the 2016 group, because it was like that team, the difference was it came out of nowhere, right? Because they had the two losses early on. Also, I guess funny now when you think about it, like the infliction points for the season both times were against Minnesota. Like,
yes,
kind of weird. True. Maybe I should file that away. Maybe that's going to become a story down here. Infliction point,
no.
Minnesota.
No, I'm stealing that. Yeah, I'm going to be writing that one next week.
But I think, like, when you observe and are around this team and you're in the roles that you and I are, where you're trying to piece together the dynamic and the chemistry and okay, we've heard so much this year, because it's true. It's a really long season, and these guys have been together since July. Here we are recording this on December 21st, and James Franklin said, like, oh yeah, it's Christmas this week, and I want our guys to spend some time with their families this week, but also every hour, every day is precious as we get ready, for this next game. There is this swag and confidence with this group that is different, unlike any other group, because 2016, like I said, kind of came out of nowhere. And I notice it in the team's stars, right? You notice it with Abdul Carter, with Drew Allar, who, made the point today where he was like, you know what? Yeah, I've seen some things about criticism, and I've seen some things about my head coach, and like, I don't care. Like, it's pretty much the confident Drew that was unleashed against West Virginia has continued all season, has only been like emboldened, I think, as he's kind of found his voice as a leader. Nick Singleton, James Franklin said after Singleton's touchdown run that James, like, he comes off the field and James is like, whoa, Nick, like, that was a violent run. And Nick said that he's a very violent man, but really, I believe MFer was meant to be in there, John. I think that was
I think it could have been several things.
Anything several you'd like, any specifics?
Nope.
Words you like to throw?
Nope. So I think I think you're right. Like there's a confidence, there's
Bravado,
a
maybe.
self
Yeah.
belief, but it's like they're also very loose, right? Like they're not like
Mhm.
they're serious, but they're also like they're so confident that they're that they're loose, right? Like they're not they don't feel tense. Like Drew early in the game felt a little bit tense, but
Yeah.
outside of that, like it didn't really feel like that. And I think part of the problem with James's teams in the past is that he was pretty tense, right? Like he was like it felt like in big moments he tensed up and he would make incorrect decisions or would struggle. And listen, coaches like players can get better. And it seems like I don't know if he's taking a lead from Andy Kotelnicki and Tom Allen, like his coordinators, and kind of the rooms he's in are more relaxed now, or what. But like, or maybe he has made that personal change and that's allowed Kotelnicki and Allen to be more relaxed. But I think he seems loose, relaxed, confident, like it almost like he knows something that no one else knows, right? Kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like he knows that they're a title contender, right? Like that they have
He
legitimate
won't say
chances.
it, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean he
And
shouldn't.
fair,
Like,
he's not. Yeah.
listen, if you're gonna say that stuff, you have to back it up. And again, Kurt Signetti. But like you don't want to say those things in public anyways. It's not gonna do
Right.
anything any
Not
good.
gonna do
But
you any
yeah,
favors. Yeah.
it feels like there's a confidence to him, and again, like the he knows something that no one else knows, and he knows how special this team has a chance to be. And listen, some people I'm sure will say Penn State's not going to beat Team X because again they can't throw the ball, whatever. Like, listen, this team can beat anybody in the country. That's it. They can
We
beat
fought
Ohio
well in the
State.
Big Ten title game. Like
They can
that's.
beat Oregon. Like they are good enough to do
Mhm.
those things. Are they going to? I don't know. Like they might not, right? Because those are also very good teams.
Maybe
But
you have a
they
bad day at the office. Maybe you have a really good day at the office. Who's to
right
say?
and like they are, but they are in that group of teams to me. I think
Mhm.
I think I said this a couple weeks ago. I don't know if I said it on here, but I think the three best teams in the country are in the Big Ten, right? I think it's Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. Texas did nothing to make me think otherwise. Georgia without Carson Beck now, who wasn't very consistent when he was playing, and now they're going to a backup who couldn't beat Beck out. Like I can't imagine Georgia's going to be better all of a sudden without Beck. And so like yeah, I think it's pretty clear that those three teams are the three of the best in the country. Unfortunately, like either
John,
if
you
Ohio
didn't
State,
mention someone.
who did I
You've forgotten some. You've angered our Catholic population.
listen, Notre Dame has to throw the ball against a good defense eventually, and if they do that, then I'll be willing to put them in that conversation. But I think Georgia wins that game against Notre Dame in the quarterfinals in the Sugar Bowl. But yeah, I mean, listen, Notre Dame is kind of
Yeah.
built like Penn State, but less creative offensively.
Penn State
Uh,
Notre Dame though, like that would be. You talk
listen,
about helmet matchups. You talk about
oh, it would be very cool.
a
Yeah.
crazy like that would be insanely fun.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, like I don't think I don't think this Notre Dame team is kind of built to hang with a team that can put up some points.
I'm with
Penn
you.
State has proven it's capable of that against even the best opponents like Oregon. And so I think if you can get ahead on Notre Dame, you can beat Notre Dame. And I mean Northern Illinois did it. So at this point, who can't? I'm kidding. I know it's earlier in the year.
See,
Like,
John, they're the Notre Dame listeners we just lost.
yeah, they're gone now.
They've moved
Uh,
along. Maybe they'll come back Notre Dame week if it lines up. That maybe they won't. Probably won't.
yeah. But no, I think Notre Dame's a good team. I don't think they're in that top tier. I think they're probably in the next group with like the SEC teams and I don't know, maybe Miami if you want to throw them in there. But
I think the thing to me, and again, as John and I are recording this, it's halftime. Ohio State's up 21-10 on Tennessee. With the orange takeover in the horseshoe, it's been interesting to see. Which hey, I mean Penn State like that didn't happen for many reasons. SMU was not going to happen that way. But right, you have the Penn State fan concern, and again, I mentioned this Friday. I was out. I was talking to some fans, and a fan brought up a point that I had not thought of, and they said, "You know what, Audrey? There's one way for Penn State to get past this Ohio State demon, this mental block." And I'm thinking, "Oh, what is it?" And he goes, "Just got to beat him in the national championship." And I was like,
I was having this conversation today. Like,
could you imagine that?
a large segment of the fan base, if Penn State makes the national title game and lose to Ohio State, will like essentially like denigrate everything Penn State has done and say that this season was still a failure or whatever, and like that won't be true, but it will happen. And yeah, listen, I mean, that would be if you're a Penn State fan, I have to imagine that would be a pretty cool way to get over the hump, right? Like beating Ohio State or Oregon in the national title game. I think that would be one. That game would be
any
awesome.
way they can get it, they'll take it. Like that,
Yeah.
and that.
Listen, and we talked about. I
Mhm.
think it's worth saying preseason. You and I both projected that they would play Texas in the first round,
Yes.
and I think we both
I had
them
them in Austin losing in the first round.
Yeah, I can't remember if I had them winning or losing. I'll have to check. But like either way, like I think we both thought like one playoff win was kind of like, yeah, that's
Mhm.
successful.
Yep.
If they win a playoff game, it probably isn't if they just make the playoff. But they got to the playoff and they won a game. And listen, you can again hem and haw about like it's only SMU. Well, SMU like beat like pretty much everyone in front of them this year, with the exception of the ACC title game and a very weird BYU game at the beginning of the season. Like it's a very good SMU team. I know they're not a top 5 team in the country. I know people will still say that James can't win a big game, and I don't even think it's that far of a stretch to say that this isn't that big of a game. But I also think eventually you're going to have to stop moving the goalposts. Eventually, one of the big games is going to have to count as a big game. And like just because that Penn State won it, well then it wasn't a big game. You know what I mean? Like you can't just keep doing that over and over again.
Yep.
And I actually think this was probably a bigger game than the Fiesta Bowl will be because I do think SMU is better than Boise State by a pretty significant margin. But again, if
we'll see.
Listen,
we got a lot of time to unpack that, John.
Yeah, Penn State 10.5-point favorites in a neutral site, and they were 7.5-point favorites against SMU at home, which is usually about 2.5 to 3 points for Beaver Stadium for Penn State at least. And so, yeah, I think, this is this is not the matchup that's going to end that conversation. But if they were to like make the national title game and they were to beat Notre Dame or Georgia to get there, then yeah, that conversation's over. Like that is a great win. That is a winning the big game, that winning a big game, whatever. Frankly, I think this one's pretty close to it because they throttled a very good team. But like, I think at some point we'll be able to put that to bed this postseason, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think, it is for Penn State, everything sets up for you, which we knew when that bracket came out, right? It's like, hey, this is your path. It's favorable. That's when the goalposts felt like they were getting moved. And it was like, oh, they got to make the semifinals now. Got to get to the Orange Bowl because of this path. That's still taking a lot of things for granted in this wacky, crazy sport that we love. And again, that's the thing that Penn State does so well, right? It's they win the games they should win. And that's always kind of been part of the calculus here. And, what an interesting way for this game to be James Franklin's 100th win at Penn State. The fact that he said afterward, he was tearing up post game talking about how he's wanted these moments for his players. And he's like, which I thought this was telling. He's like, like at this point in my career, it's not about me. It's about my players. And I wanted this for them to experience playing in a Big Ten championship game. And you're going to have so much in front of you, and you still have this insanely talented roster. You have a fan base that is energized because this is all new. This is uncharted territory for Penn State and this 12-team playoff, and the fact that it is a wide open field this year, which quite frankly is way more exciting than we've had in previous seasons. I just think like it's going to be crazy to see how these next few weeks, maybe month, kind of shake out for this program because they've shown strides, right? And I think you talk about the element of, okay, well, just kind of the surprise of today of, well, what's going to happen? How many people are going to show up? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? Is Penn State going to take care of business? And if they don't win, then this is an insanely bad loss. It's going to be tense. It's going to be James Franklin needs to go. And then you come out and the fans show up in droves as they always do. Penn
Crowd
State
was
throttles.
phenomenal. I know I didn't mention
awesome.
this earlier when you said you did not even notice that it wasn't a sellout. Like there was phenomenal crowd today.
And I think the interesting thing too is like again, I left very early, paranoid because of the Ohio State trip about traffic.
7:45 a.m. departure for me. Got there at about 8:20. Did not have to leave that early.
I was gonna say 8 a.m. for me, and we left around like 8:10, and it was not bad at all. Like it was fine. And I think maybe the difference, John, in my putting on my traffic cap here, Maybe the difference was because it was so cold, you had snow on the ground. People were like, we're coming to the game. We're not going to show up early and tailgate. I don't know. I'm
Well,
not
there were
totally
long
sure.
lines outside the stadium, and if feel free to reach out to us if this applies to you. But like, I did notice like that there were long lines. I don't know how long. Like,
Oh,
any
really?
information anyone can give us would be great. But yeah, it looked like there were some long lines outside right at kickoff, and then it finally filled up after that. But yeah, like it was not all that bad, but it was a great crowd, and I think that is obviously an important part of this.
Yeah, and
Unless you
James
have,
Franklin hit on. Well, he on it too. The fact that like this is not getting to Columbus, this is not flying to Chicago and getting to South Bend. Like this place is difficult to get to, and our listeners, I'm sure, know this because you've
yes,
been here and you have an affinity for this place, and like it's tough. I mean, I was talking to people Friday night where it's like, yeah, we drove in from New York City or friends from my hometown that are like, if we leave at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, is that okay to get there? Like, what's it going to look like? Like the sacrifices that people are making because you want to be there, feel the excitement, the energy, be part of this run for Penn State. Like, that's awesome. That is what this is all about. That's the excitement. That's kind of that's the whole thing of being a fan, John, right? It's this ride right now that Penn State fans are fully engulfed by. And I mean, again, you and I will be heading out to Phoenix in a week, which God
yes,
help us, because that's another trip where I'm like, okay, here we're throwing stuff together, but you know,
booking flights today about
yeah, oh yeah,
halftime. Yeah, it was a
yeah,
lot of
but
fun.
it's gonna be fun, and it's
It
gonna
will
be
be.
fascinating to see. Please, fans, reach out, let us know, because I'm curious on this. If fans are trying to kind of pick and choose which games they go to during this playoff run, because it is all different, right? And you had the Big Ten title game factored in there. Then you had a home playoff game. Now you have the Fiesta Bowl. But then, as we mentioned, the goalposts kind of got moved to you got to get to Miami for the Orange Bowl now because of the bracket. But then, if you're at that point, are you like national championship? Or, I've heard from some folks who said, like, screw it, we're going to all of them. Hey, if you're in the position to do that, by all
More
means,
power
go
to
for
you.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a different postseason, and this will not be a traditional bowl trip. We'll be out there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. Not even sure. I remember what I booked. I hope I have it recorded.
5 days, mostly because I'm staying at least for the day following the game as well.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
this is the Penn State fans. You've got your New Year's Eve set, which I'll go on the record now, John, because like every New Year's Eve I've had since I've been like 20 and older has somehow involved football more often than not because of the job. So a totally overrated holiday, New Year's Eve. So like the fact that your team is playing the most important game of the season on New Year's Eve because it's the next one on the schedule, like by all means, enjoy that 7:30 kick on the East Coast, which will be nice for us because we'll get a little bit of a time buffer, John. We'll get a little New Year's Eve buffer.
that'll
But
be
it's gonna be awesome.
normal sleep schedule for me, honestly.
Sick.
The time adjustment. But I'm gonna make you go on the record now before we wrap this
Oh
up.
no.
What
Oh no.
you said to enjoy the ride. When does the ride end? And
Gosh,
how?
John, man, you are out here firing shots at me
Listen,
at
no,
10:18 p.m. on a Saturday night.
I just want to like.
Honestly,
I think
John,
this is
I will.
important to get the
Yeah,
feeling of where things stand, right? Like to
you're
get
good.
the
Yeah, yeah,
feeling
that's
to
fair.
capture
That's
them.
fair.
Listen, you can change this after, presumably they beat Boise State, but I don't want to jump too far ahead on that one. But yeah, just right now, what are you feeling? When does this ride end?
At this point right now, I think it would be in Miami. That it would end there is what I'm thinking. But my
To Notre Dame
confidence
or Georgia?
level, the first choice.
Notre Dame, huh?
However, John, my confidence level in this is low. Also the fact that like Georgia, the quarterback situation here, I don't know what we're gonna see there. I have no idea. Um, but I say this and I look at a Penn State team that has the ingredients, right? And do you put it all together and get that game where, because again, today's a blowout, and this was not even really scratching the surface for this offense. Like to me, it was if you take, and again, I know this is extreme, if you take the offensive performance against Oregon and the defense today, then we're talking about this ending somewhere else.
Yeah, it's the best team in the country. I think it ends in Atlanta. I I don't know. I think they're just a tier above Notre Dame and Georgia both at this point.
Mm.
I think there's several tiers above Boise State.
But how does
Uh,
it end in Atlanta, John? Tell me more.
I don't want to upset the listeners.
It
I
ends when the clock hits 0. Then we see what happens, right? And the confetti falls for someone, and we find out who.
I think. Oh God. I think.
I mean,
I
John,
think. I think Oregon. I think Oregon beats them in a close game in the national title game. I think Oregon's going to win the national title. I've been saying that there's no clear-cut team above. There's a chance that maybe I feel differently after Oregon, Ohio State. Like if Oregon handles Ohio State.
Whoa, it's you're my beloved Vols. You're just
Listen,
throwing them right into the garbage, aren't you?
Listen,
Big
if the
Orange
Vols
take over and you just dismiss them.
if the Vols come back and win this game, then I will revise this prediction. But I think Oregon, Ohio State might end up being the best or second best game of the playoff. Like I said, I think those might be the two best teams in the country. I definitely think it's two of the best three. But yeah, I think Penn State has the path. They are playing incredibly well, and I think it ends in Atlanta. But I don't know. I think they can win the national title. I don't. Maybe I'm too far ahead of where things are, but I don't like.
No,
I don't have a reason to not believe that at this point, right? They've kind of cleared every hurdle, and even when they've lost games, like the responses have been really good, like how they've responded the following weeks, but also how they've responded from an emotional standpoint, right? Like it's easy to get caught up in the moment. Like they've been really good. This feels like a team that has a chance to do something special.
And that to me is what's, this is not something that we've been able to say, right, in a long time, that Penn State is legitimately in the national title conversation. And I know oftentimes when, you say that, people kind of scoff or whatever. At this point, they shouldn't be. Like, I think this is a team that's shown it's not just here to be in the playoff and see what happens. It's here to go on a very, very legitimate run. And we're here to kind of document wherever this run goes, wherever John and I keep booking these flights to and trying to figure out how and when we're going to record next.
I think we're going to have to book a Miami flight, and I think we're probably going to have to book a Atlanta flight as well. But as you were about to say,
locations.
Yes, we will be back at some point with a preview of the Boise State game. The schedule is obviously going to be a little different for us. Holidays this week with Christmas on Wednesday.
Sorry, John. Tuesday, Wednesday. I think Wednesday. Yeah. Christmas Eve's Tuesday. Christmas. Yeah, we got it all figured out.
I'm probably gonna
be. Wrap.
I'm probably gonna be writing. Anyways,
John, I'm not. I hate to break to you, but we're not going to record Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I'm not gonna. I'm not going to subject you to be on a holiday.
We also have some coordinator availabilities and player availabilities Thursday and Friday, according to the current Fiesta Bowl schedule. So ideally, we'll be back to record sometime before the weekend. Can't guarantee it, but that's the plan. We got to be flexible. We
have a plan. Sometimes
all of our listeners being flexible with this. Yes, sometimes. We would be going for it on 4th and 1. That would be our plan all the time. But we both are traveling next Saturday as well, as we said. So it'll be a little tight, but we'll try and get it in probably before the weekend, if I had to guess. The next episode.
I'll be recording from. I mean, I could be in my childhood bedroom, John. This is
I will be for the YouTube listeners right here.
It's the perks of having your whole family located around here, John.
That's very true. But yes, we will be back to preview the Boise State game, to preview the Fiesta Bowl, the college football playoff quarterfinals that Penn State is not only in, but favored by double digits to win. Very, very exciting. If you're a Penn State fan, you should be excited. You should enjoy this, as we both said. If you'd like to read more about it and I know Audrey wrote something sort of similar. We're both along
something
the same
with words in it. I wrote, I think.
Yeah, we both wrote about how this team is kind of real and why it's real. And you can find her writing over at The Athletic. You can find mine at CenterDaily.com. You can find Audrey on Twitter at OddSnyder4. You can find our Blue Sky by searching Audrey Snyder. You can find me on Blue Sky by searching John Sauber, and on Twitter at John Sauber. If you want, email either of us. I'm Jay Sauber at CenterDaily.com. She is A Snyder at TheAthletic.com. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button down below. Hit the subscribe button down below. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, those 5-star rating and reviews really help us out. We appreciate all of you watching, listening, however you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, we are very appreciative of that. We don't lose sight of that. But we will be back in about a week to preview a very exciting game that I don't know if we thought they would be playing in.
And if news breaks between now and then, John, I mean,
don't do that. Don't do that. Don't say that.
I mean,
no, we'll deal with that. That's the correct way to phrase that.
We'll deal with that, but we won't deal with that Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. But other than that, we'll deal with that.
Yes, we will deal with that. But until then, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.